InvestorIdeas.com podcast.
Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of InvestorIdeas.com podcasts. Today's podcast is sponsored by Cannabis Swiss Corporation, trading on the OTC as CSE, a fully licensed cannabis cultivation and distribution company in Switzerland for recreational tobacco products and medical CBD oils. In today's podcast, we're going to be looking at a few public company announcements, looking at Green Lane Holdings Incorporated, trading on the NASDAQ as GNLN. Also, JUVA Life Incorporated, trading on the CSE as JUVA and the OTC as JUVAF, as well as the VLNS Company Incorporated, trading on the TSX as VLNS and the OTCQX as VLNCF. And lastly, I'll be looking at Neopolar Interactive LLC just briefly for their announcement in Alberta. So today, starting with Green Lane Holdings Incorporated, who reported its financial results for the third quarter ending September 30th. You can read the full highlights as well as the full details and the links attached in the article, or check it out at Green Lane's website. Commenting on this, during the third quarter, with the help of our new senior leadership team, we acted on several key initiatives related to our go-forward category emphasis, organizational structure, and related staffing levels. And building on the success we've achieved in growing Green Lane brands on non-nicotine sales year over year, by 65% and 36% respectively, we've taken additional decisive steps to de-emphasize certain product lines, invest in our fastest growing and highest margin opportunities, and further reduce our headcount by 4.5%, said Aaron Locascio, Green Lane's chairman and chief executive officer. Now, while this has had an impact on our quarter three financials, we believe that these decisions have positioned Green Lane to return to near-term profitability and long-term success. So obviously Green Lane right now trading a little bit downwards. But I did like a lot of the things that they mentioned that they have been focusing on over the last year. And I do think that overall their strategy is going to pan out for them in the course of years. Again, they focused massively on international distribution. Some of the things I did like that are mentioned in the highlights. And again, you can sort of read those in more detail by clicking the links attached in the article. But they focused heavily on building out their in-house brands and really on in-house distribution and manufacturing. That's what I find is probably the most interesting, or at least the most well thought out for them as a development, is moving away from nicotine products as much as possible, especially the just low source nicotine products, especially within Canada. Lots of issues going on within new vape laws and nicotine laws. And in general, I think anyone who's associated with cannabis these days has to start distancing themselves from nicotine products and tobacco products. It's just going to be an inevitability that these products are going to have sort of a tarnished record on your overall, as hilarious as that sounds, that big tobacco will be seen as a tarnish on big cannabis going into the future. But I do believe that will be the case, and these companies will have to start looking into that eventually. And I do also like, again, that they're really focused on their in-house manufacturing, especially for some of their in-house glass brands. This is something that became a massive issue this year. I just know from personally working in head shops that the distribution lines and the production lines for most all of cannabis accessories very heavily based in China, very heavily based outside of North America. A lot of those distribution chains got cut or slowed down. A lot of brands lost huge amounts of sort of turnaround and really haven't been able to catch up since then. So for Green Lane, and I think for most brand companies that are focusing at least on the accessory market or the not directly touching cannabis, but more what you can use with it, especially vaporizers, having in-house manufacturing and North American manufacturing or Canadian or locally based, and for Green Lane having their massive international distribution method, I think they're going to really, it's going to pay off for them in the long run. They definitely do seem to have a much more thought out strategy of the years of how this industry will progress. Next, looking at JUVA Life Incorporated, who is a premier California-based multifaceted life science company focused on the commercialization of cannabis products and formulations, who announced the commencement of trading its common shares on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the ticker symbol JUVA. And additionally, information there is being updated on the company's website. You can check it out, juvalife.com. But obviously, this is the sort of big hype news for today in the markets. Massive funding for this. Definitely is going to be something that you'll see probably popping up in most of the headlines for the next little while. And I do expect you're going to see more companies like this start popping up. You can read a lot more about JUVA Life Incorporated. So a California corporation, a wholly owned subsidiary of JUVA Life Incorporated, was originally incorporated in 2018 and represents a culmination of decades of concentrated effort in the cannabis sector. Now, really, JUVA's story is not It's very unique to them, not super unique for the cannabis industry as a whole. But what is interesting is that, again, they're a US based company that's now uplisting onto the CSE. And I do think what you're going to see, and this is a general trend that, again, I've been noticing over the last year, and it's definitely continuing over into 2021. And I would expect it to get more aggressive as you're going to start to see more of these US based companies start to have uplistings as people are really expecting the Safe Banking Act to go through. There's a lot of speculation around that so far, but just based on where the money's going right now, it does seem to be an inevitability, rather a when as opposed to an if. And I think that there's going to be a lot more public listings like this. Obviously, JUVA Life Sciences JUVA Life Incorporated has a really, really cool story. A lot of great details. I highly recommend looking into more of it. But again, almost all these companies have really amazing stories, really interesting innovators, really great grassroots movement people that are involved in the industry. You can say that with some skepticism about the cannabis industry, but most of them have pretty good intentioned people, at least in the startup. And then from there, it can get a little dicey. But I do expect that you're going to start to see a lot more of these US based smaller companies that have been building over the last 5 to 10 years to now start having the ability to go public and are obviously doing this now when the market's a little less more stable and you're not seeing the same craziness that was the cannabis euphoria of the early trading days. Next, looking at the Valens Company Incorporated, who announced the addition of the Sorsa Clear, a stable, clear emulsion with a minimal sensory profile to the Sorsi by Valens offering for CBD isolate product formats. Now, CSE technology, I've talked about a lot before. It's a water-soluble emulsion technology, proprietary to Valens. Obviously, water-soluble emulsion technology within the cannabis space, big deal. Again, there's tons of different companies that have their water version of that product that's out there. What I do find is interesting about this is Valens Company adding the clear, basically minimal sensory profile CBD isolates out of the market. I do think that this is going to be a trend. You're going to see pickup. And really, the idea here is eventually this is just going to be in everything. So, as the exclusive partner for the development and custom manufacturing of best in class cannabis derivative products in Canada, having access to the highest quality cannabinoid emulsion technology, it's critically important, said Tyler Robinson, the chief executive officer of the Valens Company. We've made great strides revolutionizing many of our product lines with the CSE by Valens, including mature formats such as tinctures and the addition of CSE Clear, which will only deepen our ability to innovate and diversify our portfolio of products for the forthcoming 3.0 market. Now, CSE Clear is currently available in liquid format and contains safe, vegan-free, allergen-free ingredients. And the new emulsion offering features multiple benefits, including stability, safety, improved sensory experience, homogeneity, and seamless integration. Howard Lee, the chief executive officer for CSE, said, "We believe that CSE Clear is a game changer for the cannabis industry, and we have no doubt that the Valens Company will harness this technology to continue to formulate the most innovative premium cannabis-infused products for Canadian consumers." So I do think Valens has definitely made the smart play. Again, they've been really doing a great job within the Canadian extraction space for quite some time, especially focusing on the white label market specifically. And now with the CSE Clear, I do think that that's going to be a huge step forward for the industry as a whole. And I do think that that is the precedent where you're going to start to see these products being in a very easy to implement format and having this as water soluble, clear, vegan, allergen free. You can pretty much put this into everything. And that's obviously the 3.0 market that people have been talking about since I started doing this podcast and much more before that. But where this industry is going to end up and really the products that we haven't even seen hit shelves now and sort of the regular products that will be out there. For instance, all of the drinks that you see in a fridge at Save-On or any grocery store, all of those could eventually be having these CBD isolates in them, the same as we saw with vitamin water upticks and things like that, and especially if they are vegan and non-allergenic and have been approved safely. It seems likelihood. Also, the FDA is most likely going to probably be allowing for more CBD products over the next couple of years, especially with what's going on with COVID. So I do think that that clear, water soluble type of format, the fact that that's now available, you're going to probably see a bunch more companies come up with this as well. And that is going to be the game changer as far as where these products are going into the future. Lastly, today on an unrelated note to cannabis, we look at Neil Pollard Interactive LLC, who was proud to announce a successful launch into the Canadian market through its new agreement with the Alberta Gaming, Liquor and Cannabis Commission. Contracted as the operator of the AGLC's program PlayAlberta.ca, NPI deployed its cutting-edge technology, a full suite of managed services, as its top-performing game content on September 30th. Now, Play Alberta is another way AGLC is implementing its promise to generate revenues for the benefit of Albertans, said Alan Mainsview, the president and CEO of the AGLC. AGLC is excited to work with NPI and apply their vast experience as we provide a regulated online gambling website that will offer players expanded entertainment options with integrated responsible gambling features and generate revenue to support valuable programs and service Albertans rely on every day. Pretty sad for Canada, pretty sad for Alberta. Pretty rugged, dirty move during COVID depression times where everyone's stuck indoors to be pumping up the gambling. But on a better, brighter note, as we do go into the holiday season, something to consider this season is what people get as gifts. I highly recommend not looking at spending your money on worthless gambling crap or crazy dumb gifts. Get people seeds. There's tons of different cannabis seeds options. It's an awesome thing to do. Also, if you're feeling much more adventurous, I highly recommend checking out Silotech Labs if you're in Canada. They're a Canadian-based company. They do sell research psilocybin grow kits where you can grow them and actually learn about mushrooms. There's also selling non-psychedelic mushroom grow kits. There's tons of those you could get as great gifts. Watching people grow things is a much better gift, especially during these tough times. It might give people a much healthier thing to focus on as opposed to getting them a bunch of crap that they're going to be stuck indoors with that produces more garbage that we already have too much of. That's all for today's podcast. Enjoy the rest of your day. And once again, today's podcast was sponsored by Cannabis Swiss Corporation, trading on the OTC as CSUI. That's all for today's podcast. Podcast is now a certified word trademark on the blockchain through Cognate Incorporated CM certification. InvestorIdeas.com podcasts are also available on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play Music, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and TuneIn. If you'd like to be a guest or sponsor of this podcast, please contact InvestorIdeas.com. Investor Ideas reminds all listeners to read our disclaimers and disclosures on the InvestorIdeas.com website, and this podcast is not an endorsement to buy products or services or securities. Investors are reminded that all investments involve risk and possible loss of investment. Investor Ideas does not condone the use of cannabis except where permissible by law. Our site does not possess, distribute, or sell cannabis products.